My name is Shay Moraga. I'm the founder and the visionary of Shay's Warriors Life After Cancer. We're located in the Coachella Valley and all over where this video reaches you. Today, we're sharing more survivor stories. And there is a young woman who I was introduced to through a mutual friend that is the epitome of inspiration and hope. She is a mom and a wife and a friend and so much more. I had the privilege of meeting her at the I Am Hope Survivors Reset Retreat and other events that Shay's Warriors has hosted. And her name is Tesha. She was diagnosed with stage 3 invasive ductal carcinoma, breast cancer. I believe that's right. If it's not, when she comes on, she'll correct me. And it's estrogen positive. And she's going to share her journey of the life after cancer. So let me see if she is here right now. I'm going to bring her on. Let's see here. There she is. Hi, Tesha.
Hi, Shay.
How are you?
I'm good. Thank you for the lovely introduction.
Oh my gosh, you are amazing. I mean, look at you. You're glowing, that beautiful smile. You literally are this epitome of hope. I can see it all over. And joy. Hope and joy.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I call it gratitude.
There we go. I like that.
Yeah.
So I just want to take a moment and thank you for being open and vulnerable today to share your story with others. Tell us about yourself.
Sure. So, as you addressed, I am a mom and a wife and a friend and a coworker, also a daughter, and so many different things like most of us. But I am grateful to be here, as you mentioned. After being diagnosed with stage 3 cancer, not really a big history in my family. It was quite the surprise, and so you are living your life, and then one day you're part of the statistic of getting cancer, and you never anticipate it, and so that's a challenging time. And I had to I mean, it took a while for my diagnosis, from you know the ultrasounds to eventually diagnosis and then to surgery. There was quite a long wait. It was a bit, I call it a COVID hangover. So you had a lot of doctors, having a long line of patients coming in to see them because, they weren't able to do it during COVID, or there was just, a delay. And so I started out with stage 1 cancer, breast cancer, and quickly moved to stage 2, and only after my double mastectomy did they realize it was stage 3. So for those of your listeners who know, it's all statistics based on how many lymph nodes and what have you. And then they talk about survivorship. So when I got the news that I was stage 3, it took me about 2 days to kind of recover from that news, because you become quote unquote advanced in your cancer. And so with young children, so when I told my girls I had cancer, I have 3 daughters. I have 8-year-old twins at the time, and a 13-year-old daughter at the time as well. Now they're older, but that was something it was difficult to swallow that news of having advanced cancer and having such a young family. So my husband put it in perspective, though, soon thereafter I was diagnosed, and he said, these are just numbers, and you're not a number, you're not a statistic. And it put it in perspective for me. And essentially the entire cancer put it in perspective. I am not cancer. I had cancer. I had stage 3 cancer, and I can do things that help statistically kind of push me back into what you could say maybe stage 2 cancer, and my survival rate goes up and that kind of thing. So state of mind is a really big deal when you go through something so physically and mentally difficult. And so that's it's a bit about me and my cancer journey. But
That's, I love that quote that you just said. I am not cancer. Yeah. You know,
important.
and so important that your support in this realm, being your husband, put you on the right track right away with that information that he told you.
Yeah.
So important. Good husband. Good man.
Very good husband. Yeah. I tell everybody he married me just to keep it entertaining. Like, what are we going to do next? So.
I love that. I love that. Well, you went through the journey, and knowing what you know now, because you're in your life after cancer, knowing what you know now, are there things that you would do differently in your cancer journey that you would suggest to friends, family, to those going or starting their cancer journey?
I think that based on your type of cancer and the protocol that the doctors are recommending, especially if you're, maybe a stage 2 or thereafter, expect setbacks. Even the healthiest of people going in, there are setbacks. And I wasn't prepared for that, kind of being goal oriented prior to cancer. I went in and they gave me a general timeline of when surgeries were going to happen, when chemo was going to happen, when radiation, other surgeries. And I was so hyper focused on all of those dates and getting through them and making these kind of timelines so that I could swipe left on cancer and just get back to life, right? But cancer doesn't have a timeline like that, and your body is dealing with so much that sometimes not everybody's firing to meet those deadlines that were once set when you were first diagnosed. And so you have to have patience with yourself and be kind to talking to yourself. I remember walking around my house one day, really weak and very sick from chemo. And I think I had changed the laundry. And I was like, you did so good. I'm telling myself this, right? The relationship with yourself is one of the most important relationships you can have. And I was like, you did so good. You got that laundry done. Good job. Now go back straight back to bed. And that was a really simple conversation, childlike almost, but at the time, that's all I needed to do and all I could do, and that had to be perfectly okay that day. So, talking to yourself kindly through this entire experience and also not giving up hope through the positivity of how you communicate, because at the end of the day, you can have an incredible support system, but it's just you and your body laying on that table, getting chemo, getting radiation, hearing all of that news. You still have to have a really strong relationship with yourself to get through it.
So important. Again, just really wise words, right? Did anyone tell you that prior? Did you hear that from anybody when you were going through?
No, I had 2 friends who more college oriented one college friend, and it was a while ago. She had it when she was in her 30s, and so she just kind of was like, "Tesha, it's a distant memory. I don't remember all the details." Part of me was really relieved to hear that because that meant that she had moved on so far that the memories weren't, kind of hanging there and still so raw. The other individual that I had called is Eileen Alvarez, which obviously she's, co-founder and a good friend of yours, and she's passed on. But she was very inspirational in like, this is what's going to happen and you're going to be great. And so she was very just reassuring that you stand in your own 2 feet through this and you're going to be okay.
Oh, yeah. Yes, indeed. She always had a very unique and loving way to put things into perspective and bring the calm to the chaos in some of the things that we're told. That anxiety, that fear, that trauma of going through it. Yeah, she was great at that. Big time.
And I think during maybe that initial call, she told me she was going in for additional scans. And so we talked about her cancer. So she was able to lift me into a place of strength even when she was going through great uncertainty herself. It's classic case of, your mind can kind of compartmentalize what you're going through to help someone else and how important that is. And that's why these sessions are so important. I think it's just invaluable to be able to see, as you said, life after cancer can be tricky, but it can also be really wonderful. And you can see the world with new glasses and a new lens, a new perspective, and give hope to those who unfortunately have to go through it themselves.
Yeah. What have you incorporated in your life that has contributed to your thrivership?
Well, I always worked out. So these are a little more tactical. But I read a statistic that if you exercise 120 to 150 minutes a week post cancer, you reduce your reoccurrence rate by somewhere around 50%. Depends on which publication you read. That's a pretty big statistic. I have learned, even though I am not a statistics in oncology are huge. I mean, even 5% can kind of make the difference between certain elements in oncology. So that's been a big deal, moving my body and not overtaxing it, but moving it and keeping it very strong. So as I mentioned, it took a long time for my surgery, my cancer removal surgery. And so it was about 3 months of waiting for the surgery. And so I decided I was going to try to reclaim some element of control during that wait period. And so I worked out very, very hard. And I got really, really strong during that period of time. Probably a little too much, but I was trying to keep my mind occupied and obviously my body. What that did for me is I went into all these surgeries really, really strong and recovered really well. And the amount of times doctors said, you're strong, you're going to recover really well from this procedure or this treatment. I felt like it made a huge impact. Also, if your breast cancer community is listening, and if you have a double mastectomy, you can't really use your arms. So I went hard into ab work. And it was really helpful during my recovery because you can't use your arms getting it out of bed.
It's
And
funny
I
that you
remember
mentioned
thinking
that. I was just gonna say that, like your abs, like when your strength, it's not about this, it's about your abs. And if you have weak abs, you're kind of screwed.
Yeah. So I someone told me you can't use your arms really well. I'm like, well, if you can't use your arms, how do you get out of bed? And so I was like, it's got to be your abs. So I went hard in the core work. And every time I got out of bed and couldn't use my arms because they're so sore, I thought about, wow, I'm so glad I did all those extra sit-ups and core work. So those little things, it's amazing how it can help you. Also, eating whole foods. I don't do it perfectly all the time, but not eating processed meats, limiting alcohol, all of those things are really important that I've incorporated. And being patient and kind to myself, as I mentioned earlier. I talk to myself in my head now and in a different way, as far as you're doing great, keep it up, those kinds of comments are been really important. Groups like Shay's, now that I'm a part, kind of an alumni to the retreat, which I'm sure we'll talk about in a bit, but knowing that what you're going through, that you're not the only one, has great power, gives you courage, and gives you a lifeline when sometimes you don't feel like anybody else gets it. And so if it's not you, Shay, it's some of the other warriors, and it's just this incredible community, very kind, understanding, brave. Sometimes they're not as brave, and so they lean on the other warriors for that. And that's what a community like this does. It's very powerful. So yeah.
Good. What should people say or not say to someone going through cancer? And even a little bit in the survivorship of cancer once you've gotten there.
So just probably the biggest challenge that I've had is people are, for the most part, well-meaning, but it probably doesn't always feel that way when the news is delivered and you're kind of in the thick of it, right? But if they've never had cancer and they've never had any kind of treatment, they just need to be supportive and not really have an opinion. I think that's really important because, you've done your research on your own, you've met with oncologists, it's you and your body getting through it, and your goals for life, and making sure you outlive, some of those statistics are really, really important, and you're not really interested in a lot of opinions, especially if they haven't been through it.
Yeah. I know if I recall back, I had opinions from the chemo would kill me, or if you only eat this certain food, it will cure. There's all of these different things. And there's all of this stuff out on social media too. And I think it is really important that when people are going through cancer or even in that life after, to the fact that we don't really know what and how our bodies react, and if we will get cancer in our lifetime or if it will reoccur or whatnot. All we really can do is live the best that we can. And I think the important pin on the head right there that you said was educating yourself, because you are going through it. Everybody has choices, and it should be your choice, and or yours and your husband's choice, or whoever that is, but other people's don't other people's opinions, unless it's yours or your medical team's, does not matter. And therefore being supportive is so important. By can I bring you dinner tonight, or can I drive your children to soccer or school and I'll pick them up while you and your husband have some time to have just some time. Stuff like that. That's supportive and helpful. But judging you on how you do treatments or what types of treatments that is their opinion they would do if they had cancer is is not really needed. Yeah.
Right. And that brings up a good point on uh, people helping. I think that it was really hard for me initially, but then my husband to accept help. Capable people, can do these things. And as I shared with him, it's really important that we allow people to help us because it's a way that they can support us. It's their way of doing something versus just sending a text. And, if your community wants to support you, it's not necessarily a burden if it's coming from the heart. And to allow them in is a way that they're showing their affection and their love and their support of you. So um, any individuals going through it, it's okay to accept help if you're like me and my husband. So
I understand it. I never wanted to accept help, right? And in fact, that's how Eileen and I even met too. Was the fact that Jen, who was our mutual friend that set us up on that initial phone call, knew that the both of us were so very private and knew that I needed help. And she must have known at the time that Eileen wanted to give help, which would help us both in the end of that continuous nature of healing, which obviously led to Shay's Warriors Life After Cancer. Give me, you already kind of said one, but what's an inspirational quote that you live by now?
Oh, the version of this, and I don't know who said it. If you can find gratitude, you can be free.
Say that again.
If you can find gratitude, you can be free.
Now tell me what that means to you.
If you look around and you focus on all of the things you don't have, or this terrible disease, and how, it's not fair, whatever the story, the negative narrative, it's very damning, and it's hard to break out of that kind of mindset. If you can look and say, I have one more day to live, or I have a good protocol, or I have the support of my family and friends, or I have a good attitude and I'm going to overcome this particular day of chemo or life after cancer or whatever it may be. It's a mindset. You can have a whole different experience and perspective in life if you're wearing your gratitude. And I just think that it's a classic case. You can look at things in a positive way as a gift, or you can look at them in a negative way. And I think of cancer as a gift, in the sense that it can change your perspective. You are reminded that we are not guaranteed any more than the present moment that we have. And when you're diagnosed, a lot of people look at you kind of like, gosh, is she going to make it through? Well, I got news for you. I mean, we could all be driving down the street and it could be lights out. And I know that well because I've lost a brother to a car accident when I was 20. And then my dad was killed in an accident as well. So, I never had it. They were all quick passings, right? They were gone before you knew they were gone. And so cancer is one of those things where I kind of look at it as if it's going to be, the thing that takes you out. At least you can have peace with everyone if you wanted to say goodbye, or you change your trajectory and you heal things within your family, whether you have terminal cancer or stage 1 cancer. It's an opportunity, and or you can look at it as a really awful thing and you can't shake it. And life's way too short for that.
It is. Thank you. That's so much resonates with myself, and I'm sure the rest of this community that's watching. That's huge. Life is a gift.
Yep.
Yeah. Why do you feel more people need to know about the life after cancer journey?
I think that this hasn't really been out in the mainstream, but thankfully that more and more people are living after diagnosis. So unfortunately, more people are getting diagnosed, but the statistics are showing that more people are, living after that and can go on to have, long lives. With that comes typically more treatment, or longer treatment, whether that's through the intensive phase or post cancer. For example, I have been on oral chemo after all my IV chemo and all my radiation. So I'm on oral chemo it'll be 2.5 years when I'm finished, and hormone blockers because it's estrogen fed. Those are not necessarily super easy drugs to live with day in and day out. They have side effects. They cause different things. They affect my mood, my mental health. And so that's one of those elements that I think people, your community wants you to be better. They need you to be healed, and they want to kind of move on and not worry about your health anymore. And at the end of the day, you are still in it if you are on all of these post drugs. And even those who've gone through chemo and radiation, a lot of times they're their weekend, and they can't, maybe they can't do the same things that they could before. And that impacts them too. I mean, we're all coming at this slightly differently. I think that society doesn't understand these long-term drugs and how they affect the patients long-term. And that's one of the reasons I said yes to the Shay's retreat last May. Is I was having a hard time thinking I should be great now, right? And I wasn't. And to recognize that I was still going through a lot. My body was still going through dealing with these drugs and changing my hormone levels, which impact your mental health. And the doctors are trying to catch up to supporting, the cancer survivors 1, 2, 3 years out who are going through this. But at the end of the day, there's only, so many of them, and they can only reach out their hands so far. And this group has made me, re-acknowledge that I'm not alone, and so many others are going through these really hard times. And it's not because they're crazy, and it's not because they're weak. It's because they've been through something really traumatic. And perhaps, even in my case, you're still going through an element of that. And you're not always the same person that you were going into this, because sometimes you're medically altered. And acknowledging that and reaching out for help to professionals or groups like this is so critical, because there have been days, dark days, where I've said, was this really worth the fight? And then I realize that's not me talking. Those are the drugs altering my perception of the gratitude and the life I have.
Yeah. Yep. A quote that you just said in there, if I may. I thought I should be great by now, but I'm not. Hence why that retreat exists today, right? Let's talk a little bit about that. When you got that call for the retreat, you were reluctant, if I remember making that call. But you fast forward, you accepted. And you were definitely reluctant. You said to me, it's okay because somebody else should have this place. And you're not the first person to ever say that to me on the phone either. But you fast forward, you accepted, you got to the retreat.
Mm-hmm.
Tell me what attending the I Am Hope Survivors Reset Retreat meant to you. And now, almost a year later, how has that helped or not helped?
Mm-hmm. And I think on that call, I said, but the fact that you're calling me and inviting me means I should accept. So
yes, you did.
Hearing your voice on the other line, I knew I couldn't say no. Even though deep down, I did want to. I didn't have time. I had all these other things, and I wasn't going to put myself first. And obviously, that's not healthy, especially when you need it. But I entered the retreat at this beautiful hotel, and I did not know what to expect. I was looking around. I knew one of the board members. I think eventually I saw you, but it wasn't initially. And I thought, well, I'm going to make the most out of this experience. And I put my bags in my room and went to the lobby, and slowly we started meeting each other, the other 4 that were there to participate, and all walks of life, all different ages. And we all kind of looked around going, we are not sure what to expect either, but we're in this together. And as the retreat kind of evolved, that night and then the next days, you started meeting people and sharing your stories. And initially, right away, I was hit with, this group gets it. This group gets how hard it's been, and also that it's a safe place to share your story without judgment, and to be able to feel safe that way, and created the vulnerability that a lot of us needed to go in there and probably, be cracked open in some cases. I think that I was taken aback at how many of the individuals there probably told stories or had realizations that they don't talk about, probably, or haven't, most of their lives. And so going through cancer is very traumatic. And then sometimes looking behind that and to how you can heal fully is something that can be the gift of cancer, if you want to look at it that way, just to crack it all open, take a look. I appreciated all of the exercises we did with Dr. Gail Parker and yourself, and you brought in a sound bath, which I'd always dreamed of doing, and so I got to do that, and it was a really neat experience. But just to celebrate that we were all there, and we could share these stories and try new things and go on a hike and help each other on the hike, or let each other know it was okay to take a break, and just connect with these really wonderful people who are going through a hard time or had gone through it and have a bit of trauma, and come together and realize you're not alone. And I still lean on those women today.
It's amazing. Amazing, right?
The retreat isn't a prize at the end of your cancer treatment or a reward. It is, in many cases, I saw firsthand, it's a lifeline of hope that you can overcome some of these things that feel like are kind of pushing you down, and being held, the strings of cancer are holding on, and you can cut those one by one. And this group helps you do that.
You all have each other. It's that special club no one wants to be a part of.
Oh, yeah.
And it's totally exclusive. And you don't want to let people in. That's the important part. Mm-hmm. But if you do get into that club, it's a bond like no other.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. We all heal and help each other.
Mm-hmm.
What does survivorship mean to you now that you've gone through the retreat? You actually started coming to the programs afterwards too, when you can, because you have a very busy life with 3 young teens. But what does that survivorship look like to you now, and giving back through your advocacy and your ambassadorship of being a Shay's Warriors now?
Knowing that there are others out there, when you're down in life, feeling all alone can be very poisonous, right? And so knowing that there's others out there that you can lean on and connect with is a gift. And I think now that I am definitely on the other side, living a full life, to be able to have someone lean on me or ask questions, or just see that I'm living my life. And it's already happened, right? Someone will refer someone to me, and then I'll talk about my journey and maybe some things that have helped me. And it's then you can be, kind of this ambassador or mentor to help get them through those hard days. I think that's another, way you can give back, and that lifts you up too, because you realize, Shay, you and I have talked about this once before, if you're always looking forward to all the things you need to do, in the next day, week, month, year, but if you turn around and look back at all that you've accomplished, it's amazing. And so in cancer and life after cancer, if you turn around and look back at all the things that you've overcome, that's really inspirational. And to give that back to someone who's going through it or just coming out of it can be really a gift to them as well.
It's definitely a ripple effect, right?
Yeah, definitely.
Why? Let's see. Finish the sentence for me. Life after cancer is something to celebrate because.
I get to be here.
And how about there is life after cancer and it is
worth it, challenging, and wonderful.
I'm so grateful that you're a part of our community, and I'm so grateful you said yes.
Thank you. It's a real honor. I'm proud
You are
to be here.
Inspiration and hope for others.
Thank you.
And I've had the privilege to meet your husband.
And girls.
Yeah. And girls. And you have just a beautiful family. And thank God for all of you.
Thank you, Shay.
Yeah.
We say the same about you. The hundreds and hundreds of thousands of people that you help. So
we all do. We all do our part, right? And you're doing yours too. So is there anything else that you want to share with our community?
one of the biggest tips I give individuals who are coming out of it is that I am a huge Western medicine fan. And so I honor that and do my research, but I also support Eastern medicine. And so I found a doctor who she started as an MD and then went back to Chinese medicine. And what I experienced during all of this was certain doctors only see you as a cancer patient or they only see the cancer. And I really needed someone who saw all of me and saw me more than just the diagnosis or just the tumors and so it was really important to have. I felt like someone was always looking out in my best interest. And so at my work, I deal with individuals who I don't work in the health industry, but many of them often they get cancer or within groups. And so that's one of the things I always recommend is just go explore other options. I support Western medicine. I'm not suggesting anybody necessarily steer clear of that, but there are other supporting cast members in this, because if you're at this for me, if you're at this for years and years and years, it's going to take a toll on your body. And it's okay to support your body, whether that be massage or different exercises or different types of medicine. And as long as it aligns with that and it doesn't harm you, and it's cleared by your oncologist, I just think it's really important. It gives you a sense of control that you're helping support your body in another way.
I think that's really important too, because we do have community partners that are very specific and oncology certified that we work with massages, with facials, different realms. So, and then if they know that you're a part of the Shay's Warriors community too, there's good benefits behind that as well. And so it's okay to take some time and be able to give some self-care for you. And self-care is not selfish, as they say, right?
Right. And you might be mitigating a problem that will only get worse years down the road. I mean, you think of lymphedema, for example, right? If you've had lymph nodes removed or what have you, and advocate for yourself to do OT or to do lymphedema specific massages or, that kind of thing. I think knowledge is power in that way, but also to advocate for yourself is really important.
Mm-hmm. Very much so. Awesome. Well, thank you for sharing your story with all of us. Thank you for being you. And thank you for giving back even after the retreat and showing up for not only for others, but especially showing up for yourself. That's the huge part in the lesson of this journey, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I will see you at soon. I know you have a couple of fun events that you're going to be coming to as an ambassador of our organization, and so we'll see you at Taste of Tennis and Fashion Week El Paseo and all of these fun things that are coming up. And we're just so grateful for you and your family and your support and your willingness to be vulnerable and share and help others heal. So thank you. Thank you so
Thank you,
much.
Shay. Thanks for all you do. We appreciate you.
And I love and appreciate all of you. Have a wonderful, wonderful evening. Thank you, everybody, for listening. To find more information or to rewatch this or even share it with someone that you know, please go to shayswarriors.org and you will find us on the YouTube channel and under community. Thank you so much and have a great evening. Bye bye.